Dr. Do-hyun Kim stood by the large window of the space station. Earth looked small from here. The blue planet hung in the darkness of space like a beautiful marble. Do-hyun took a deep breath. Today was a big day for all humans. Today, they would meet aliens for the first time. At 42 years old, Do-hyun never thought he would be the face of humanity. He was just a normal scientist who studied strange life forms. But when the alien ship arrived 6 months ago, everything changed. The world leaders picked him to be Earth's main speaker to the aliens. "Dr. Kim, they're ready for you," said Captain Junho, the head of security. His face was serious. Do-hyun nodded and checked his simple black suit one more time. He wanted to look professional. He had studied all the reports on the aliens. They called themselves the Galactic Concord, a group of 7 different alien species. They had been watching Earth for many years before deciding to say hello. "Remember," said Junho as they walked down the long hallway, "don't agree to anything without talking to us first." The door at the end of the hall slid open. Do-hyun walked into a large room with a round table in the middle. 7 strange beings sat around it. They all looked very different from each other. One had blue skin that seemed to glow slightly. Another looked like a giant bug with many arms. One was just a cloud of gas in a special suit. There was one that looked like it was made of stone, and another that seemed to be made of water in a clear container. The 6th had a head that was too big for its body and eyes that changed color. The last one looked like a robot with many screens on its body. "Welcome, Dr. Kim of Earth," said the blue-skinned alien. Its voice was smooth and musical. "I am Ambassador Tellin of the Arcturians. We are happy to finally meet humans face to face." Do-hyun bowed slightly. "The pleasure is ours, Ambassador. Thank you for coming all this way." "Please sit," said Tellin, pointing to an empty chair. As Do-hyun sat down, he noticed all the aliens were looking at him closely. He felt like an animal in a zoo. "We have studied your people for many years," said Tellin. "Your kind is very interesting to us. So full of life, so quick to change." "Thank you," said Do-hyun, not sure if it was a good thing or a bad thing. "We have many questions about your people too." "Of course," said Tellin with a smile that showed teeth that looked like small diamonds. "That is why we are here, to share knowledge and become friends." For the next hour, they talked about simple things: where the aliens came from, what their worlds were like, what they ate, how they lived. The aliens asked many questions about Earth too. They seemed very interested in human art and music. Then, during a small break for food and drinks, Tellin turned to Do-hyun with a curious look. "Dr. Kim, if I may ask, how old are you?" Do-hyun was a bit surprised by the question. "I am 42 years old." Tellin's eyes widened slightly. 42 years? And you are one of your world's top scientists?" "Well, I wouldn't say top," said Do-hyun, feeling a bit shy. "But I have been studying biology for about 20 years now." "Amazing," said Tellin. The other aliens were now listening closely. "You have done so much in such a short time." Do-hyun wasn't sure what Tellin meant. "How old are you, Ambassador Tellin, if it's okay to ask?" Tellin smiled again. "I am 347 of your Earth years, and I am considered young among my people." Do-hyun tried not to show his shock. "That's impressive. The Arcturians typically live to about 500 years, Tellin continued, looking proud. He pointed to the stone-like alien. "But the Lithos can live for thousands of years. Even the Kiri," he pointed to the bug-like alien, "live for at least 200 years in their final form." "I see," said Do-hyun carefully. "Human lifespans are much shorter. Most humans live between 80 and 100 years. The room became very quiet. All the aliens stared at Do-hyun. "Only a century?" asked Tellin, his voice full of surprise and a little bit of pity. "That's all?" The gas alien made a bubbling sound that Do-hyun's translator didn't catch. The water alien's container rippled, which seemed to be its way of showing emotion. "That is correct," said Do-hyun calmly, though he felt a bit uncomfortable. He didn't like the way they were looking at him. like he was a sad, broken thing. "How? Do you accomplish anything?" asked the bug-like alien. "By the time you learn something useful, you are already old." "We learn quickly," said Do-hyun, "and we pass our knowledge to the next generation." "But there's so little time," said Talon, shaking his head. "How do you deal with knowing your life is so short?" Do-hyun thought for a moment. He could tell the aliens felt sorry for humans. They thought living for a long time made them better. "We make the most of the time we have," he said finally. "Quality over quantity, Ambassador." Talon looked confused. "I don't understand." "When you know you don't have forever," explained Do-hyun, "each day becomes more valuable. Each moment matters more." The stone alien spoke for the first time. Its voice sounded like rocks falling down a hill. "But don't you feel sad about all the things you will never see? The future of your own world?" "Sometimes," admitted Do-hyun. "But that makes us work harder to build a good future, even if we won't be there to see it. We plant trees knowing we may never sit in their shade." The aliens looked at each other. They seemed confused by this idea. "Fascinating," said Talon finally. "Your species sees time very differently than ours." The meeting continued for several more hours. They talked about trade, technology, and future meetings, but Do-hyun could tell that the aliens now saw humans differently. They tried to hide it, but their faces, those that had faces, showed it clearly. They felt sorry for humans. As the meeting ended and Do-hyun prepared to leave, Talon walked with him to the door. "Dr. Kim," said the alien, "I hope I didn't offend you earlier. We are just surprised by your short lifespans." "No offense taken," said Do-hyun with a small smile. "We are equally surprised by your long ones. We have much to learn from each other," said Talon, putting a blue hand on Do-hyun's shoulder. "And I look forward to it, even if our time together will be brief." Do-hyun nodded politely, but inside he felt a spark of something like anger. The aliens thought they were better because they lived longer. They looked down on humans because of something humans couldn't control. As he walked back to the Earth section of the space station, Do-hyun made a decision. He would show these long-lived aliens exactly what humans could do with their brief lives. He would make them understand that living longer didn't mean living better. It was time to show the Galactic Concord what humanity was really made of. 3 months passed since the first meeting with the aliens. Earth was different now. People knew they were not alone in the universe. Some were scared, but most were excited. The Galactic Concord had built a big embassy in Seoul, South Korea. It was a tall, strange building that changed colors in the sunlight. Jiho Park walked up to the embassy gates. At 35 years old, he was younger than most diplomats. But he was smart and good with people. That's why the United Earth government picked him to work with the aliens every day. "Good morning, Mr. Park," said the security guard. He waved Jiho through the special scanner that checked for weapons. Inside, the embassy was busy. Humans in suits walked next to aliens of all shapes and sizes. Jiho headed to the main meeting room. Today was the Cultural Exchange Symposium, where humans and aliens would share their art, music, and ideas. When he entered the room, he saw Ambassador Talon talking to a group of human artists. The blue-skinned alien was wearing Earth clothes today, a simple suit that looked strange on his tall, thin body. "Ah, Jiho," said Talon when he saw him. "Just in time. We were discussing human music." "Good morning, Ambassador," said Jiho with a small bow. "I hope you're enjoying the symposium." "Very much," said Talon. "Though I find it interesting how quickly humans create new art. Just in the 3 months we've been here, music styles have already changed." A new voice joined the conversation. "That's because we don't have centuries to perfect one style." It was Mina, a famous human painter. She looked annoyed. Talon raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "I meant no offense. It's just different from our ways." Jiho could feel the tension in the room. This happened a lot. The aliens didn't try to be rude, but they often made humans feel small and unimportant because of their short lives. How long does it take an Arcturian to create a piece of art? asked Jiho, trying to change the subject slightly. Well, said Telan, a proper musical composition might take 20 or 30 years to complete. A painting could take even longer. He looked proud of this. The human artists looked shocked. 30 years, said Mina. That's nearly half a human lifetime. Exactly, said Telan. Art needs time to be truly great. The lithos, he pointed to a stone-like alien across the room, can spend a century carving a single statue. Jiho saw the hurt and anger on the human artists' faces. This was getting worse, not better. Just then, Nayla, the ambassador from the water-based Marians, floated over in her water tank. I hope I'm not interrupting, she said, her voice coming from a speaker on her tank, but I couldn't help overhearing. Not at all, said Jiho politely. I've been studying human history, said Nayla. It's impressive how much you've done in such a short time. But I wonder... She paused, bubbles rising in her tank. I wonder if humans can truly understand deep concepts when they live such brief lives. The room got very quiet. Even Telan looked uncomfortable now. Jiho took a deep breath. He had to say something. With all due respect, Ambassador Nayla, length of life doesn't equal depth of understanding. I meant no offense, said Nayla quickly. It's just that wisdom comes with time. My people live for 400 years. We have time to think deeply about things. One of the human artists, an old man named Tai Wu, laughed loudly. I've had students who could learn in 1 year what took me 20 to figure out. Time isn't everything. Nayla's water rippled, which Jiho knew meant she was confused or upset. Perhaps we should test this idea, she said. A friendly competition. Between our species. What kind of competition? Asked Jiho, suddenly interested. A series of challenges, said Telan, joining in, to compare how our different species approach problems and creativity. Jiho thought for a moment. This could be good. A chance to show the aliens that humans weren't less just because they lived shorter lives. I think that's a great idea, said Jiho. What challenges did you have in mind? 5 trials, said Nayla. Art creation, problem solving, adaptation to new situations, emotional understanding, and learning new information. And who would judge these trials? Asked Tae-woo, looking suspicious. Neutral AI judges, suggested Telan quickly. They have no bias toward any species. Jiho nodded slowly. That sounds fair. But I have one more question. What's the time limit? Time limit? Asked Nayla, her water swirling. Yes, said Jiho. Every contest needs a time limit. I suggest 1 Earth month for all 5 challenges. The aliens looked at each other. They seemed amused. 1 month is very short, said Telan. Too short for proper work, added a bug-like Kiri who had joined the group. But that's the point, said Jiho. Humans work with the time we have. If you want to see how our different species compare, then the contest should reflect real life. Humans don't have centuries for every project. We have days, weeks, months. The aliens talked among themselves for a few minutes. Finally, Telan turned back to Jiho. We accept your terms, he said. 1 month for all 5 challenges. Excellent, said Jiho. Now we need teams. I will lead the Concord team, said Telan. 1 member from each of our 7 species. And for the humans? Asked Nayla. Captain Sun-hee Kang, said Jiho without hesitation. She's perfect for this. The aliens didn't know who Sun-hee was, but they would soon. She was a former military officer who now ran one of Earth's biggest tech companies. She was smart, tough, and never gave up. And most importantly, she didn't care what the aliens thought about humans. As the meeting ended and everyone started to leave, Telan came up to Jiho again. This will be interesting, said the alien. But I hope you understand that we have a big advantage. Our team members have hundreds of years of experience each. Jiho smiled. And our team knows that every second counts. We'll see which is more valuable. Later that day, Jiho called Sun-hee and told her about the competition. She listened quietly, then laughed. They think they're better because they live longer, she said. Time to teach them a lesson. Can you put together a team? Asked Jiho. Already. Thinking about it, said Sun He. They may have time on their side, but we have something better. What's that? Asked Jiho. Urgency, said Sun He. When you know the clock is ticking, you don't waste a minute. Those aliens are about to learn what humans can do when we're on a deadline. As Jiho hung up the phone, he felt excited. The aliens thought this competition would prove they were superior. But Jiho knew better. It was time to show the Galactic Concord what humans were really made of. The big day had come. 2 weeks after the challenge was accepted, both teams met at the new Global Science Center in Seoul. News crews from all over Earth were there. This was a big deal, the first official competition between humans and aliens. Captain Sun Hee Kang stood with her team. At 40 years old, she was in her prime. Her black hair was cut short and her eyes were sharp and focused. She had picked 6 other humans to work with her. Taewoo, the 78-year-old artist who spoke up at the embassy Yoonju, a 25-year-old computer genius Dong-Yun, a 35-year-old engineer Young-mi, a 50-year-old doctor Hyun-soo, a 45-year-old teacher Jae-won, a 30-year-old musician. They were all different ages and from different jobs. Sunny had picked them carefully. She wanted a team that could think in many ways. Across the room stood the alien team. Ambassador Tellin led them. With him were 6 aliens, 1 from each of the other conquered species. The stone-like lithos was named Gorn. He was over 2,000 years old. The bug-like Kiri was called Zeke. The gas alien, a Vaporeon, was named Mist. The water alien Nayla floated in her tank. The big-headed Novakin was named Trell, and the robot-like Quantic was called Unit 7. They all looked calm and sure of themselves. After all, together they had lived for over 4,000 years. What could 7 humans with barely 300 years between them do? Welcome, everyone, said the head judge, an AI with a friendly voice. Today we begin the first of 5 challenges between the Galactic Concord and Earth. The room was quiet as the judge explained the rules. The first challenge is art creation. Each team must create a piece of art that shows the theme unity and diversity. You have 5 days. Begin now. The aliens moved to their side of the room. They started to talk quietly among themselves. They seemed in no hurry. Sun Hee gathered her team in a circle. 5 days isn't much time, said Taewoo. We need to start right away. I agree, said Sun Hee. Let's split into 2 groups. Taewoo, Jae-hwan, and Youngmi will work on one idea. Hyunju, Dong-hyun, Hyunsoo, and I will work on another. After 1 day, we'll pick the best one and all work on it together. 2 ideas at once? Asked Hyunsoo, looking surprised. Yes, said Sun Hee. We don't have time to try things one by one. They got to work right away. Sun Hee's group started on a digital art piece that would change based on how people looked at it. Taewoo's group began a painting that showed hands of different colors reaching for each other. Meanwhile, the aliens were still talking. They hadn't even decided what kind of art to make. Why are they just sitting there? Yoonju asked Sun Hee quietly. They think they have all the time in the world, Sun Hee said. Let them. We'll use every minute we have. By the end of the first day, the humans had 2 half-finished art pieces. The aliens had just started to draw some plans. Tellin walked over to Sun Hee's group. Why the rush? He asked, looking genuinely confused. Art needs time and thought. We don't have time, said Sun Hee simply. So we make the most of what we have. Talon shook his head and walked back to his team. They still looked calm, but now there was a small worry in their eyes. By the 3rd day, the humans had finished their art piece. It was a mix of painting and digital art. When people stood in front of it, sensors picked up their movements and changed the colors and patterns. It showed how each person added to the beauty of the whole. The aliens were only halfway done with their piece. It was beautiful. A crystal sculpture that caught the light in amazing ways, but it wasn't nearly finished. Maybe we should work faster, Tellin said to his team. For the first time, he sounded worried. On the 5th day, the judge came to see both pieces. The human's art was complete and amazing. The alien sculpture was beautiful, but clearly not finished. This is just the basic form, said Tellin. We needed at least another month to complete it properly. But the time limit was 5 days, said the judge. The humans completed their piece within the time limit. The Concord team did not. The first challenge went to the humans. The second challenge began the next day. It was about solving a problem. Both teams had to fix a broken system on Mars that helped make air for the human colony there. Again, the aliens took their time. They sat and thought and talked about the best way to fix it. The humans split into small groups again. They tried 3 different solutions at once. "This isn't the best way," complained Gorn, the old Lithos. "They're just trying things without thinking them through." "But they're getting results," said Nayla, watching as the humans tested their second solution. The aliens finished their solution after 3 days of careful work. It was good. It would fix the problem completely. But the humans had already fixed the problem in just 1 day. Their solution wasn't as perfect as the aliens, but it worked just fine. The second challenge also went to the humans. The third challenge was about adapting to new situations. Both teams were put in a room where the gravity, temperature, and light changed randomly. They had to complete simple tasks while dealing with these changes. The aliens struggled. They were used to stable environments and having time to adjust. The humans adapted quickly, changing their plans as needed. "How do you do that?" asked Tellin, watching as Sun He's team finished the challenge in half the time. "We have to," said Sun He. "On Earth, things change all the time. Humans who can't adapt don't survive." The third challenge went to the humans too. By now, the aliens were worried. They had won the knowledge challenge, where they had to learn and remember new information. Their long lives gave them an edge there, but they had lost the emotional challenge where they had to understand and respond to different feelings. "I don't understand," said Tellin to Mist, the gas alien. "We have lived so much longer. We should be winning easily." "Perhaps," said Mist, his gas swirling in thought. "Living longer doesn't mean living better." Talon looked across the room at the humans. They were celebrating their latest win. They looked tired but happy. They had worked nonstop for 2 weeks now. They lived like, "They're running out of time," said Talon. "Because they are," said Mist. "And maybe that's not a bad thing." As the competition entered its final week, the score was 3-1 in favor of the humans. The galaxy was watching. No one had expected this outcome. The long-lived aliens were learning a hard lesson about the power of urgency and the strength that comes from making the most of limited time. As the competition entered its 3rd week, something unexpected happened. Ambassador Talon started to talk more with the humans. He seemed very interested in understanding them better. Most of all, he wanted to talk to Dr. Myung Choi. Myung was not part of Sun He's team. She was an 87-year-old philosopher who had come to watch the competition. She had white hair and a face with many wrinkles, but her eyes were bright and full of life. One afternoon, Tellin sat with Myung in the garden outside the science center. They drank tea together. "I don't understand your people," said Tellin. His blue skin looked darker in the shade of the trees. "You know you will die soon, yet you work so hard." "Why?" Myung smiled. "It is because we will die soon that we work so hard." Tellin shook his head. "That makes no sense. If I knew I had only a short time to live, I would rest. I would enjoy what little time I had. And that is the difference between our species," said Myung. She took a sip of her tea. "When humans know time is short, we don't rest. We try to do more. We try to leave something behind." Inside the science center, the 4th challenge was ending. It was the emotional challenge. Teams had to help a young AI learn about feelings and how to understand them. The humans had won easily. They knew all about strong feelings and how to explain them. The aliens struggled. Their emotions were slower, calmer, built over centuries, rather than decades. 3 wins for Earth, 1 for the conquered, announced the judge. The final challenge begins tomorrow. Later that evening, Tellin found Myung again. He looked troubled. "May I ask you something personal?" he said. "Of course," said Myung. "You are old for a human," said Tellin. "You have maybe 10 or 15 years left. Does that scare you?" Myung looked up at the stars that were just starting to appear in the sky. "Sometimes," she said honestly. "But mostly, no. I have lived a good life. I have loved. I have learned. I have helped others. When death comes, I will be ready. I am 347 years old, said Tellan. I have at least 150 more years to live. But in all my time, I have never felt what you humans call urgency. I have never felt that I must do something now or lose the chance forever. That's because you think you have forever, said Myung. Humans know we don't. Is that why you create so much? Why you change so quickly? Asked Tellan. Yes, said Myung. When you have centuries to solve a problem, where is the rush? When you have 1,000 years to create something beautiful, why hurry? But when you might die tomorrow, everything becomes precious. Every moment matters. Tellan was quiet for a long time. I think I begin to understand, he said finally. The next day was the final challenge. It was about learning new things. Both teams had to study a new alien language no one had seen before and then have a conversation in it. The aliens were good at this. Their long lives meant they had learned many languages. They started memorizing all the words and rules, but the humans did something different. They looked for patterns. They found ways to guess what words meant based on how they were used. They didn't try to learn the whole language, just enough to talk. They're cheating, complained Gorn, the old stone alien. No, said Tellan. They're adapting. They know they don't have time to learn everything, so they learn what they need. When the 5 hours were up, both teams had their conversations with the judge. The aliens spoke the new language nearly perfectly. The humans made many small mistakes but got their meaning across clearly. The conquered team shows better technical mastery, said the judge. But the Earth team shows better practical communication. This challenge is a tie. The final score, Earth 3, Conquered 1, with 1 tie. The humans had won the competition. That night, there was a big celebration. Humans and aliens gathered in the main hall of the Science Center. There was food, drink, and music. The mood was happy, but some of the aliens still looked confused by what had happened. Nayla, the water alien, floated up to Sunhee. I still don't understand how you won, she said. We have so many more years of experience. Experience isn't just about time, said Sunhee. It's about what you do with that time. Across the room, Tellan was talking to Jiho and Dr. Do-Hyun Kim, who had come to see the end of the competition. I've been thinking about what Myung told me, said Tellan, about how humans see time differently because your lives are short. And what do you think? Asked Do-Hyun. I think we were wrong, said Tellan. We thought living longer made us better, more advanced. But now I see it might make us slower, less creative. We have all the time in the world, so we take all the time in the world. While we have to make every moment count, said Jiho. Exactly, said Tellan. Your mortality drives you. It makes you create, build, solve problems faster. It makes you feel things more deeply. You love more strongly because you know love won't last forever. You work harder because you know your time to work is limited. The music changed to a slow, beautiful song. People started to dance. Tellan watched them with new eyes. What will you do with this new understanding? Asked Do-Hyun. Tellan thought for a moment. I will tell my people. I will tell all the species of the conquered. We have been looking down on humans because you don't live as long. But now I see that your short lives might be your greatest strength. Later that night, Myung found Tellan standing alone on a balcony, looking at the city lights. Beautiful, isn't it? She said, coming to stand beside him. Yes, said Tellan. Your world moves so quickly. The lights, the people, everything changing all the time. That's life on Earth, said Myung. Always changing, always moving forward. I asked you before if you were afraid of death, said Tellan. Now I wonder if I should ask myself if I'm afraid of life. What do you mean? Asked Myung. I think my people, all the Concord species, have been so focused on living a long time that we forgot to really live, said Tellan. We move slowly, think slowly, feel slowly. We have time, so we take time. And now? Asked Myung. Tellan looked at her, his crystal eyes reflecting the lights of the city. Now I want to learn from humans. I want to feel that urgency, that drive to make each moment count. I want to really live, not just exist for a long time. Mi-young smiled. Well, Ambassador, I think that's a very human thing to want. Together, they looked out at the busy city, where millions of humans lived their short, bright lives to the fullest, burning like stars in the night. 6 months passed since the competition ended. Earth had changed a lot. Humans and aliens now work together on many projects. Ships from the Galactic Concord brought new technology and knowledge to Earth. Human art, music, and ideas spread throughout the galaxy. Today was a special day. The Grand Council of the Galactic Concord was meeting on Earth for the first time ever. It was a big honor. Leaders from all 7 alien species came to the new Galactic Embassy in Seoul. Dr. Do-hyun, Kim adjusted his formal suit as he waited outside the main council room. At his side stood Ji-ho Park and Captain Sun-hee Kang. They were all nervous. This meeting was very important for Earth's future. Do you think they'll accept our proposal? Asked Ji-ho. I hope so, said Do-hyun. But the Concord doesn't change its ways easily. The doors opened, and Ambassador Tellin came out. His blue skin looked brighter than before, almost glowing with energy. They're ready for you, he said with a smile. The 3 humans followed him into the large round room. The council. Members sat in a circle. Each alien was different from the others, one made of stone, one of gas, one of water, and so on. In the center was a tall chair where the head counselor sat. She was an Arcturian like Tellin, but much older. Her skin was deep blue, almost purple. Welcome, representatives of Earth, said the head counselor. Her voice was soft but strong. We have read your proposal to join the Concord as a full member world. Usually this process takes 20 years, but Ambassador Tellin has asked us to make a special case for Earth. Tellin stepped forward. Honorable Council, in the 6 months since our competition with the humans, I have learned much about them. They may not live as long as we do, but they live with greater purpose. They feel more deeply, create more quickly, and solve problems in ways we never thought of. The stone alien, Counselor Gorn, spoke next. His voice rumbled like rocks falling. But they are so young as a species. They have barely left their own planet. How can they be ready to join us? May I speak? Asked. Do-hyun politely. The head counselor nodded. It's true that humans are young compared to your species, said Do-hyun. But in just the last 100 years, we have gone from flying our first planes to building space stations. We move quickly because we must. This is what makes humans special, added Tellin. They don't just exist despite their short lives. They thrive because of them. The council members talked among themselves for a few minutes. Then the head counselor raised her hand for silence. Dr. Kim, she said, the competition showed us that humans have much to offer the Concord. Your art touched our hearts. Your solutions to problems were creative. Your ability to adapt is remarkable. Do-hyun felt hope rising in his chest. But there is still one more test, continued the head counselor. Dr. Mi-young Choi, please come forward. The doors opened, and Mi-young walked in slowly. She looked even older now, walking with a cane, but her eyes were still bright. Dr. Choi, said the head counselor, you are in the winter of your life. Soon you will be gone. This is something most of us in the council have never faced. We will live for centuries more. Tell us, how does your mortality shape your wisdom? Mi-young stood straight despite her age. Honorable Council, she said, her voice clear and strong. When you can see the end of your path, you walk with purpose. The room was very quiet. Everyone was listening closely. My life has been short by your standards, Mi-young continued. But in my time, I have loved deeply. I have seen much change. I have taught thousands of students who now carry my ideas forward. When I am gone, parts of me will live on in them. This is the human way, she said. We know we are temporary, so we build things that last. We write books so our words live on. We teach others so our knowledge doesn't die with us. We create art that will be seen long after we are dust. She looked around the room at all the alien faces watching her. Our brief lives force us to think beyond ourselves. We must care about the future because we won't be there to see it. This is why we plant trees whose shade we will never sit in. This is why we fight to protect a planet that will outlive us all. When she finished speaking, the room was silent. Then Counselor Nayla, the water alien, spoke. In all my 400 years, I have never thought of time this way. Nor I in my 2,600 years, said Gorn. The head counselor stood up. I have made my decision. Earth will join the Conquered as a full member world, effective immediately. The wisdom of mortality is something we have forgotten. We need humans to remind us. The humans could hardly believe it. They had done it. Earth was now part of the galactic Conquered. In the months that followed, many things changed. Aliens began to study human ways. Some even tried to live like humans, working quickly, feeling deeply, creating with urgency. 1 year after the competition, Tilan stood with Do-Yun on top of a tall building in Seoul. They watched the sunset together. Your world has changed us, said Tilan. Many of my people now live differently. They don't want to just exist for centuries. They want to really live like humans do. And humans are changing too, said Do-Hyun. Your technology might help us live longer, but I hope we never forget what makes us human. What's that? Asked Talon. The knowledge that life is short, said Do-Hyun, that every day matters. 2 years later, Dr. Myung Choi passed away peacefully in her sleep. She was 90 years old. Her funeral was attended by humans and aliens alike. Ambassador Talon gave a speech that was broadcast across the galaxy. Myung Choi lived for only 90 years, he said. But in that short time, she changed the way an entire galaxy thinks about life and death. She taught us that a life's value is not in its length, but in its depth. In the years that followed, many conquered species began to change. They started working faster, creating more, and feeling more deeply. Some even tried living in human time, making decisions quickly, building relationships faster, and creating art in days instead of decades. The Galactic Conquered grew stronger with humans as members. Human creativity and urgency combined with alien knowledge and patience created amazing new things. And the story of how humans joined the Conquered became famous throughout the galaxy. It was the story of how a species with the shortest lifespan taught the longest-lived beings how to truly live. As for Do-Hyun, Jiho, and Sun-Hee, they became important leaders in Earth's new role in the galaxy. They traveled to distant worlds, built new friendships, and showed the power of human determination. One day, many years later, a young Arcturian asked Talon, "Is it true that humans only live for 100 years?" Talon smiled and looked out at the stars. "Yes," he said, "but in those 100 years, they live more fully than most of us do in 1,000. That is their gift to us. The knowledge that life's meaning isn't found in how long you live, but in how well you use the time you have."